What is your take on SOPA, and how do you believe it affects Americans? For those who have not been following it, SOPA is the Stop Online Piracy Act. Crackdown on internet piracy, which is clearly a problem, but opponents say it's censorship. Full disclosure, our parent company, Time Warner, says we need a law like this because some of its products, movies, programmings, and the like are being ripped off online.
I was the first Republican to sign on with a host of Democrats to oppose this law, and we have had a concerted effort, and I feel like we're making achievement there. This bill is not going to pass, but watch out for the next one. And I am pleased that the attitude is sort of mellowed up here because the Republicans, unfortunately, have been on the wrong side of this issue. And this is a good example on why it's good to have somebody that can look at civil liberties and work with coalitions and bring people together. Freedom and the Constitution bring factions together. I think this is a good example.
After months and months of campaigning, if you could do one thing over, what would it be?
I can't think of any one thing that I would do differently, but I would continue to do what I'm always trying to do. One thing that I believe about a free society is it provides the opportunity for us to work for our own virtue and excellence. And in campaigning, I think I can still learn a lot about becoming a better deliverer of a message. And the conviction I have, but I think if I spoke a little slower and made more conviction, that I could do a better job. So I think in general, I will continue to work on delivering a message, which I think is a great message.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. Let's get back to our issues discussion, and let's begin with a question down in our audience.
Hi, I would like to ask on the issue of amnesty of the illegal aliens, how would you secure that the American citizens would keep the jobs in line first for them?
You've heard your colleagues talk about making sure employers, companies that hire large numbers of people, making sure they get the message. They can't hire illegals. What about individuals? About a quarter of the illegal immigrants in the country work for individuals. If this is a problem, if I hired an illegal immigrant, say, to clean my home, should I be prosecuted for doing that?
I don't believe you should be, because I think those laws are misdirected. That makes you the policeman, or the businessman the policeman, or the Catholic Church the policeman if they do anything to help an illegal immigrant. It should be the law enforcers, and that is the border guards and the federal government's in charge of immigration. So no, I don't agree with those laws, but that doesn't mean that I'm soft in the issue of illegal immigration. Illegal, I can't imagine anybody standing up here and saying, oh, I'm for illegal immigration. We're all against illegal immigration. But I think what we fail to do is look at the incentives. And it has a lot to do with economics. There's an economic incentive for them to come, for immigrants to come. But there's also an incentive for some of our people in this country not to take a job that's a low-paying job. You're not supposed to say that, but that is true. But there's also an economic incentive in the welfare state for immigrants to come in. In Texas, we suffer from the fact that there are federal mandates that we have to take care of their medical needs and their educational needs, and it bankrupts some of our school districts and our hospitals. So it's those mandates. But we need a more generous immigration policy. It should be legal, but we need more resources. But I find that the resources are all overseas. When I was in the military, I was on the Pakistan-Afghanistan border, and that is a no man's land. You can't see the border. At least we can see the river south of Texas. We know where the Rio Grande is. Over there, we can't see it. But we're over there fighting and dying over that border, looking for problems. Why don't we take those resources and quit pretending we can defend those borders and put them on our borders and take care of our needs here?
Go ahead, Mr. Speaker. All right, let's move on. Let's take another question. Congressman, I'll bring you in on this one. Let's take a question now from social media. Question. Before we move on, you want in on this issue? They want you in on this issue. Would you like in on this issue?
But John, once again, it's a medical subject, and I'm a doctor, you know. No, I do want to make a couple comments, because I can remember the very early years studying obstetrics, and I was told, and it was before the age of abortion, and I was told, taking care of a woman that's pregnant, you have 2 patients. And I think that solves a lot of the problem about, you know, when life begins and all. But I also experienced a time later on in my training in the 1960s when the culture was changing. The Vietnam War was going on, the drugs were there, and pornography came in, and abortion became prevalent even though it was illegal. So the morality of the country changed, but then the law followed up. When the morality changed, it will reflect on the laws. The law is very important. We should have these laws, but law will not correct the basic problem, and that's the morality of the people that we must do. Now, just very, very briefly, I want to talk a little bit about that funding, because the flaw there is if you send funding out and you say, well, you can have it for birth control but not for abortion, all funds are fungible. Even funds that go to any hospital, if you say, well, it's not for birth control and it's not for Planned Parenthood, it's not for abortion, if you send it to the hospital, they can still use that money. This is an indictment of government-run medicine because you never can sort that all out. You need the government out of that business, or you will always argue over who's paying what bills.
Very quickly, Senator.
I think that was directed at me, and so I would just say this. Congressman Paul has a national right-to-life voting record of 50%, which is pretty much what Harry Reid's national right-to-life voting record is. So to go out and say that, you know, you're someone who stands up for the right to life, you repeatedly vote against bills on a federal level to promote the right to life, and you say that this is an individual personal decision or state decision. Life should be protected, and you should have the willingness to stand up on a federal level, on any level of government, and protect what our what our Declaration protects, which is the right of our Creator to life, and that is a federal issue, not a state issue.
Quickly, sir.
Well, just for the record, I wasn't even thinking about you when I was giving my statement, so you are overly sensitive. But it is true that we have a disagreement on how we approach it. I followed what my understanding is of the Constitution, and it does allow for the states to deal with difficult problems. Matter of fact, it allows the states to deal with almost all the problems if you look at it. It is not given, these powers aren't given to the Congress. I see abortion as a violent act. All other violence is handled by the states. Murder, burglary, violence, that's a state issue. So don't try to say that I'm less pro-life because I want to be particular about the way we do it and allow the states the prerogative. This is the solution. This is the solution, because if we would allow the states to write their laws, take away the jurisdiction by a majority vote in the Congress, you repeal Roe versus Wade overnight instead of waiting year after year to change the court system.
We're inside 35 hours now from voters in South Carolina going to the polls, and we all know the history of this state. In modern times, the winner of the South Carolina Republican primary has gone on to be your party's nominee. We have an interesting race at the moment. Senator Santorum wins Iowa. Governor Romney wins New Hampshire. Everybody's waiting to see. Most people believe if Governor Romney wins here, he would be the prohibitive favorite. I want each of you, since we have a short time left, and I'll start on the end, we'll come down the line. Congressman Paul, make your case. Make your case. South Carolina essentially faces this decision. Not so fast, let's continue the race, or embrace Governor Romney. Make your case to the people of South Carolina in these final hours.
Well, South Carolina is known for their respect for liberty. And a lot of people will ask the question, they will ask the question in a way, what will you do for South Carolina, or what will you do for New Hampshire, what will you do for the various states? But if you understand liberty, it's equal for everybody, it benefits everybody. So if you have a protection of liberty, which is the purpose of the Constitution, protection of individual liberty, and that means you protect the private property rights system. And if you do that, that benefits everybody. And this is what we have to do, is convince people that we can bring people together with the understanding of what those beliefs were that made America great. And it is freedom. It isn't this continued spending money and debt. This is the reason we're in a mountain of debt, and we have to deal with it. We really never even got around to talking about that tonight. And one of my very modest proposals, my modest proposal is in the one first year, cut $1 trillion out of the budget to get started. Because the debt bubble is the great burden. It's a burden to all of us. And as I mentioned earlier, these programs are going to go down if we don't get our budget under control. And we have to be willing to look at overseas spending and all of the entitlement system here in this country.